When people think of home, they often imagine the safest, warmest place. A place to return to after facing the storms of the world. Where love waits with open arms. But for me, childhood home wasn't peace. It was worry wrapped in thin walls. And sleepless nights soaked with my mother's silent sighs. Our house sat at the far end of a dusty red dirt road. Its walls made of mud and straw. Its roof patched with faded palm leaves. In the dry season, the wind howled through the cracks. And in the rainy season, water poured in from every corner, dripping onto the bed, the kitchen, even into the little rice pot we clung to. I remember the storms, the furious winds, the pounding rain, the terrifying nights. I remember how my father rushed to place buckets under the leaks. How my mother spread out an old tarp to cover the roof. How my siblings and I huddled in a corner, eyes wide, listening to the house creak and groan like it might collapse. But what haunts me most today isn't the storm outside. It's the storm inside my mother. She was just over 40 back then, her body thin and wiry, her hands rough with calluses, her skin darkened from sun and rain. By day she worked the fields, did hired labor, and at night, she cooked, mended our torn clothes, and tended to the pigs in the little garden plot. To me, as a child, she seemed invincible, like a mountain that would never break. But at night, when she thought we were asleep, I sometimes opened my eyes, just a crack, and saw her sitting at the edge of the bed, her thin shoulders trembling, her hands wiping away quiet tears. In the dim light of the moon filtering through the roof, I heard her sigh, long, soft, almost inaudible, as if she was exhaling all the pain she couldn't voice. She worried about the rice running out, about the school fees, about the medicine for my father, about how to stretch one tiny income to feed many mouths. Sometimes in the morning, I'd see her swollen, red eyes, and she'd still smile at me. "Come on, wake up, my child, I got some fresh greens for breakfast." Her smile broke me more than her tears. I once asked her why she didn't sleep early. She only smiled faintly. "I'm used to it, a little worry, then it passes." But I knew, her worries never really passed. That little house, poor and broken, held all of my childhood. It carried the smell of wet straw, the echo of hammering when Dad patched the roof, the soft murmurs of Mother soothing my baby sister. Even now, after walking through grand homes and shining hotel lobbies, there's a part of me that always aches for that old home, where my mother's quiet sacrifices became the most sacred love I've ever known. 2. English meals drenched in tears. When I think back to our meals, I don't remember laughter around a full table, or the smell of hot dishes carried from the kitchen. I remember simplicity, and the quiet sorrow that clung to it. Most days, our meals were rice mixed with cassava or sweet potatoes, stretched thin so everyone got a portion. On hard days, there wasn't even enough rice. Just thin porridge, watery but warm, divided carefully among all of us. The table was small, made of old wood. On it, a plate of salt mixed with chili, sometimes a tiny bowl of fish sauce diluted with water, and a few pickled vegetables if we were lucky. I can still see my mother, pretending to be full, pushing her portion toward me and my younger sister. "Eat up, you're still growing," she smiled. But when she turned her face away, I saw her bite her lip, her eyes glistening. We were children, but we weren't blind. We knew she was starving herself for us. We knew my father often skipped lunch at the fields to save food. I remember the lump in my throat as I ate, trying to swallow both the rice and the guilt. My sister once asked, "Why does Mama's voice shake when she tells us to eat more?" And I, only 8 years old then, had no answer except to quietly cry into my bowl, each grain of rice soaked in a child's helplessness. But in those meager meals, I also learned something precious: resilience. Even in the poorest households, a mother's love finds a way to fill bellies and hearts. There was one winter night I will never forget. The cold seeped through the cracked walls, and we had nothing but a pot of thin porridge. Mother lit a tiny oil lamp, and under that flickering light, she told us stories, funny little tales she made up, to make us laugh, to make us forget the hunger gnawing at our stomachs. I remember her voice trembling from exhaustion, but never from despair. She gave us the only feast she could. Hope. Today, I eat at restaurants, taste dishes from around the world, but no meal has ever tasted as profound, as heavy, or as beautiful as those simple bowls of rice mixed with my mother's sacrifice. 3. English. Barefoot dreams and simple wishes. I grew up barefoot, not because it was a game, not because I liked the feeling of earth under my feet, but because we couldn't afford shoes. Every morning, I walked along the dirt paths to school, my small feet sinking into mud after the rain, scraped by sharp stones, sometimes pricked by thorns hidden under dry leaves. When it got too painful, I would stop, sit on a rock, pick out the splinters, and keep walking. At school, I sat at the back of the classroom, sharing a torn textbook with 2 other classmates. I carried my books in a faded cloth bag that mother had sewn from an old shirt. I watched other kids open shiny pencil cases, pull out colorful notebooks, while I clutched my stubby pencil, erased carefully so it would last longer. And yet, I dreamed. My dreams weren't grand. They weren't of toys, or gadgets, or riches. They were simple, tender dreams. A new pair of sandals, a ball to play with after school, or maybe, one day, a meal with meat, just a small piece, to taste what it was like. One year, just before Tet, our school hosted a charity event. They handed out gifts, old but usable shoes, second-hand clothes, a few boxes of crayons and storybooks. That day, I received a small storybook and a set of colored pencils. I remember holding them to my chest, my heart beating so fast I thought it would burst. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on my mat, flipping through the pages over and over. Even though the words were simple, even though I could recite the stories by heart after the first reading. It wasn't just a book. It was a window to a world beyond poverty. A whisper telling me, there's more out there, keep going. Looking back, I realize, those barefoot days, those small, aching dreams, they shaped who I am. They taught me to treasure what I have, to never look down on anyone, to find joy in the little things. A kind word, a shared laugh, a full stomach. Even now, when life has become easier, I sometimes walk barefoot on grass, close my eyes, and remember the child I was, the child who kept dreaming, even when his feet were bleeding. 4. English. Father and mother, silent heroes. In the story of my childhood, there were 2 main characters who never sought the spotlight: my father and my mother. My father was a man of few words. He rose before dawn, his silhouette moving quietly through the mist, preparing his worn-out tools for another day in the fields. His hands were rough, his back bent, his face weathered by years of sun, wind, and hardship. I rarely heard him complain. Even when his feet were cracked, even when the hoe handle gave him blisters, he simply wiped his brow with his sleeve and kept going. Sometimes, he came home late, his clothes soaked with rain, his body trembling with fever. But he'd smile softly at me and say, "It's all right, my son, I'm just tired." My mother was the heart of our home. From morning to night, she moved through the house like a quiet river, cooking, cleaning, washing, tending the garden, feeding the animals, sewing clothes until her eyes ached. She never stopped. She was small, thin, but there was an unbreakable strength in her. She stretched every coin, turned every scrap into something useful, and somehow made sure that, no matter how poor we were, we never went to sleep hungry. There was a day I will never forget. My father fell sick, a heavy, worrying sickness that needed a doctor, needed medicine, but we had no money. That night, I saw my mother open the old wooden box under her bed. Inside, wrapped in cloth, were the only pieces of jewelry she owned: a pair of tiny gold earrings, given to her on her wedding day. She held them in her palm, her fingers trembling. For a long moment, she just stared, her face caught between love and loss. Then, with a deep breath, she closed the cloth around them. And early the next morning, she walked to the market to sell them. She came back with medicine, a little rice, and a tired smile. That night, as she sat by my father's side, holding his hand, I realized, my parents were heroes. Not the kind you see in movies, but the kind who sacrifice everything quietly, so their children can live. Even now, Years later, I carry that image with me. I carry their strength, their selflessness, their love woven into every hard-earned breath. They taught me that being rich has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with the size of your heart. 5. English. Growing up through hardship and gratitude. As the years passed, I grew taller, older, but the poverty didn't fade overnight. I carried the weight of hardship on my young shoulders. But strangely, it did not make me bitter. It made me tender. It made me look at the world with eyes wide open, seeing not just the struggles of my own family, but of others too. At school, I noticed which classmate wore the same shirt every day, whose shoes had holes, who brought no lunch. At home, I learned to share my food, my toys, even my quiet comfort, offering a small hug or a smile to my little sister. When I had nothing else to give, hardship didn't break me, it shaped me. It taught me to value the smallest things. A full bowl of rice, a hand-me-down shirt, the rare taste of meat in a soup. I learned to treasure effort, to see the dignity in labor, to understand that love is often shown not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, tireless acts of care. Most of all, I learned gratitude. Gratitude for parents who gave their all, even when all wasn't much. Gratitude for the teachers who let me borrow books, for the neighbors who gave us leftover vegetables, for the stranger who handed me a pair of old shoes one winter. I remember one moment clearly, standing barefoot at the edge of a rice field at sunset, watching my father carry his tools home, my mother hanging laundry nearby. The sky was painted in orange and gold, and I thought to myself, we don't have much, but maybe, somehow, we have enough. Years later, when I had grown, when I had jobs, money, and stability, I still found myself pausing. At the sight of a mother holding her child, at the sound of laughter from a small, humble home, at the taste of a simple meal, and feeling an ache of gratitude deep in my chest. Because I know where I came from. And I know that without those hard years, without those days of eating rice with salt, without those nights when my mother sat awake worrying, I would not be the person I am. The child I was learned something the rich might never know. That true wealth is not counted in coins, but in the love that survives every storm, and the gratitude that carries you forward. 6. English. A message to those living in poverty. If you are reading this, and you are in the middle of your hardest days, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. And most importantly, you are stronger than you think. I know the feeling of sitting at a dinner table, trying to stretch a meal that's too small, pretending you're not hungry so others can eat. I know the feeling of walking to school with cracked sandals, or none at all, trying to hold your head high when you feel invisible. I know the ache of watching your parents break their backs, knowing you can't help them yet. I know the quiet envy when you see others with things you only dream of, new clothes, full backpacks, or even just carefree laughter. But listen to me, these days will pass, and when they do, they will leave behind a version of you that is unshakable. You are learning resilience. You are learning empathy, the kind that can't be bought or taught, only lived. One day, you will look back, and you will understand, the pain you carry now is shaping a heart that will know how to love deeply, how to lift others, how to cherish even the smallest blessings. You are becoming the kind of person who will not turn away when you see someone struggling, because you will remember the taste of hunger, the weight of longing, and you will be the one to offer a hand, a meal, a word of hope. So please, hold on, cry if you must, rest when you're tired, but don't let the world make you believe you are less than anyone else. You have survived every hard day so far. That is not weakness, that is quiet, fierce strength, and one day, when you rise, you will carry with you not just the scars, but the wisdom, the compassion, and the power to make sure someone else eats at a full table, walks in sturdy shoes, and dreams without fear. Final closing with like and share call to action, English. And if these words touched something deep inside you, if you saw even a small part of your own story reflected here, please, like and share this message. Not for me, not for numbers, but because someone out there, right now, needs to hear that they are not alone. Someone is sitting in silence, wondering if they can survive another day. Someone is holding their childhood pain in their hands, unsure if it will ever turn into strength. You can be the one who places this message in front of them, like a soft light in the dark. So let's not keep these words just between us. Let's let them fly across timelines, across screens, across hearts. Like, share, spread hope, because you never know whose life you might touch with just one simple act of kindness today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping this story go further than I could ever carry it alone.